I'm actually going to do 3 recipes for you: a meatball zucchini boat, apple chicken salad boats, and then apple oatmeal cookies. Every recipe that we're going to do today is simple, a limited number of ingredients, and it can all be done very quickly. So all you need for this recipe is zucchini. You'll need 3 zucchini to fill an entire 9x13 pan. You will need some type of spaghetti sauce. You're welcome to make your own, or you can buy jarred spaghetti sauce. And then we'll need meatballs. So with the zucchini, you want to look for zucchini that are a little thicker. What you're going to do is you're going to slice it in half lengthwise. If you have a really thin zucchini, there's not going to be a lot of zucchini left to hold your boat. So to get a sturdier boat, you want to get a thicker zucchini. And I like to measure my pan to know how much I need to cut off the end, because a lot of times they're longer than the 9x13 pan. So this is just slightly longer, so I'm just going to cut the ends off. And then you take your zucchini and you slice it lengthwise. You can go a step further and on the bottom edge, cut off a little sliver, and then your boat doesn't rock. Then you need to take a melon baller, or if you don't have a melon baller, you can use a regular spoon. And all you're gonna do is scoop out the seeded part of the zucchini. So you wanna be sure you leave a little bit at each end to try and keep it holding inside your zucchini. So it's really easy. Just scoop it right out. And then you put it in your pan. Usually about 6 fit in the pan. If you have shorter zucchini, you can put some lengthwise also. So really simple. So you'll just do that to 3 zucchini to give you 6 boats. And then the next step is filling it with meatballs. Now you can fill these zucchini boats with anything and everything. But what I have found is that the zucchini boats that have some type of sauce on them are a little better. I got turkey meatballs. Normally we think about meatballs with ground beef, just regular like Italian style meatballs. If you get turkey meatballs, they will have less fat in them than regular meatballs. When we're talking about heart disease, decreasing your fat intake, specifically your saturated fat intake, is key to helping prevent heart disease. There are 2 ways that you can prepare this meal. You can put the zucchini in the oven just like this and bake it in about 20 minutes. And then on the stove top, do your meatballs and your sauce for about 20 minutes. So if you need a dinner faster, you can get dinner like that in about half an hour. The way we're going to do it today, it takes 45 to 50 minutes because we're putting the meatballs straight in the oven frozen. So it's going to take a little bit longer to thaw them out, and the oven's not going to heat as fast as the stovetop does. So all we're going to do, so simple, is you just line up your little meatballs in your zucchini. Something that I always look at when I'm at the store is I look at, on the back of the nutrition label, I look at what the serving size is and how many servings per container there are. And that way I can get an idea of how many are going to be in that bag. So then I can gauge how many I need to purchase. And now the last thing we're going to do is take our spaghetti sauce. You can use any type of spaghetti sauce you want. I personally like the chunky varieties. So the ones that have extra vegetables added to them, so it adds a little bit of extra thickness and bite to whatever you're eating. So, but you can choose whatever. Shake up your jar, and you pour it on top. And then you're going to put it in the oven for 45 to 50 minutes. So depending on your oven, some ovens heat a little bit hotter than others. And you'll bake it at 350 degrees. Once it is done, that 45 to 50 minutes, you'll pull it out and you'll sprinkle about a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese on top. and put it back in the oven for 5 additional minutes to help melt that cheese. So we're gonna switch gears and go to the apple chicken salad. So we're gonna do a nicer presentation of the chicken apple salad. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna make a little boat out of our apple. So you will take an apple and you're going to just slice it in half. So you're gonna have 2 halves. Then you're gonna take your melon baller and you're gonna scoop out the seeds and the stems. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be a whole. You want to be sure you're leaving about 1/4 of an inch around on the outside, so that way there's structure to your apple. So you'll save these little pieces that came out of the apple, and we're going to just dice them up into little pieces. All right, so after you cut the apples, you want to put lemon juice inside, because if you don't, the apple's going to turn brown and it's not going to look very appealing when you're trying to eat it. So you just take a little bit of lemon juice and squeeze it in the inside, and then squeeze a little bit on top of the cut apples that you have, and then use your hand to rub the lemon juice all the way around so you get lemon juice on every piece of your apple. Now let's talk about the chicken salad filling. So on your recipe, it calls for 1 chicken breast, which will make about 1 cup of chicken when you shred it up. I went the easy route and bought a rotisserie chicken. So we have our shredded chicken. If you were going to use a chicken breast, you would just cook it on the stovetop and shred it up. You could also get some frozen chicken breast and throw it in the crock pot and cook it on the crock pot for 8 hours on low. It's going to shred really easily. So there's several ways that you can get the chicken, depending on how much time and effort you want to put into it. So you have your chicken, and then instead of using mayonnaise for the dressing, we're going to use yogurt. A lot of recipes out there call for plain Greek yogurt when you are making it, but if you've ever had plain Greek yogurt, it's very tart and tangy. So I like doing a combination of vanilla and plain Greek yogurt. So if you mix the two together, it really evens out the tanginess of the plain yogurt, but it's not overly sweet because it's not all vanilla. You're going to want to combine them in a bowl before you add them to your chicken salad. For this recipe, you really don't even need an entire stalk. You'll probably need about half a stalk of celery. So if that's not something that you eat a lot of, it is definitely something that can just be left out of the recipe. I like adding celery to the chicken salad because it adds a crunch. If you don't have a crunch, it's just very creamy. So I like the crunch. If you don't want to do celery and you wanted a crunch, you could also put slivered almonds in the chicken salad. That would add more protein and have that crunch as well. So you don't want to just slice up the celery as is because this is really thick. So you're going to slice it in at least thirds, lengthwise. And then I'm going to take that apple that from the middle that I cut up, and I'm going to add that into the chicken salad itself. And then add my chicken. I didn't put all the chicken in at once because it makes a big mess. When you're trying to stir, it's hard to get to the bottom. And so if you add it in gradually, it makes it easier to manage. You could also add dried cranberries to this. You could slice up grapes and add it to this. The options are limitless as to what you want to put in your chicken salad. But I think you'll find that having that combination of the plain and vanilla Greek yogurt is going to give it a really good flavor without adding a whole lot of fat. Because if you just use mayonnaise in your chicken salad, it's going to be a much higher fat content. So once you have your chicken salad made and you have your apples, the recipe says for just using 2 apples, and it serves 2 people, so each person gets an entire apple. You take your chicken salad, and you scoop it into your apple. This is really creamy. I don't normally make it this creamy, but we eyeballed it. So isn't that cute? You may not think cookies and heart health or low blood sugar, but these are actually very well carbohydrate contained cookies. They also have a lot of fiber in them because they've got fruit and oatmeal, very limited amount of sugar. The first thing I'm going to do is mix up all the dry ingredients in the recipe. So we have 1 cup of oatmeal. So you want to use a quick cooking oat. So this here is 1 minute oats. So you want to be sure you're using a quick oat. If you're using like a steel cut oat, it's going to be really hard. It's not going to cook as well. So you don't want to use an instant oat because then they'll be too soft. So the quick oats is a really good use for this. So you have 1 cup of oatmeal, and then we have 3/4 of a cup of whole wheat flour. So the whole wheat flour is going to have more fiber in it than the enriched flour. It's also going to not be as processed. So it's something that we're looking for. So just having that whole wheat flour. And then we have our spices. So we have cinnamon as well as apple pie spice. But if you don't have apple pie spice, that's fine. You could leave it out, or you could add nutmeg in the recipe too if you wanted to change it up. And then you will have baking powder. You want to have that baking powder so it has that leavening agent, so the cookies are going to rise a little bit. They're not going to be as dense. And then in another bowl, you are going to put all of your wet ingredients. So you're going to have 2 tablespoons of melted butter, which is re-solidified here. You're going to crack 1 egg. The egg is going to help bind the cookie together. So if you leave the egg out, it's going to fall apart. Then you're going to take vanilla and honey. So you'll only need about 1/4 cup of honey for the entire recipe. I will say that these cookies are not super sweet. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. Because if the cookies were really sweet, would you want to eat just one? Or would you want to eat more? You'd probably want to eat more. So this, you still get the taste of the cookie, you still do get some sweetness, but it's not going to be so good you want to eat all of them. All right, so then you have your wet ingredients in here. You're going to take your dry ingredients and mix them in. So you're just going to pour your dry ingredients in the bowl. So you've got that, and the last thing you're going to do is get your apple, and you're going to do a small dice on the apple. So once you have your apple, you'll just fold it in, mix everything together, and then you will want to let this mixture sit in the refrigerator for about ½ an hour before you form them into cookies. So that really helps that baking powder have time to rise a little bit, and it's going to give it time to kind of mesh together. It'll form better cookies. It won't fall apart. Because if we just tried to form cookies right now, it would start to fall apart. When you put them on the baking sheet, you are going to want to put parchment paper down on the baking sheet. And the reason why is this is going to burn to the cookie sheet, and then you're going to have a huge mess to clean up. Where you just put parchment paper down, you're going to be able to throw that mess away and not have to deal with that cleanup. All right, who's ready to eat? All right, Laura, you want to help me pass out